You're listening to the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, featuring real business owners telling real stories about their real business experiences. Here are your hosts, John Chiappetta and Eric Jorn.
All right, welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Business. We have Bill and Bob Seitz from Libertyville Car Spa and the Lake Forest BP. Welcome, guys.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Good to be here.
All right. So tell us a little bit about what you do. I think I kind of gave it away in the business names, but...
Okay. Yep. Like it sounds, we are in the automotive service business. We have been for, Bob and myself and our brother Mike have been in it since the late 80s. And our dad started it in 1970. So he started with one location, and since the brothers and I have been in it, we've expanded to 3, now down to 2, because we sold our Kenosha Car Spa location in April of last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
It was bittersweet.
Yeah, we put a lot of time and effort into that place. We really did. Working 10, 12-hour days all the time. So
that's the life cycle of the business.
Yeah, for sure.
We kind of fell into a niche of buying undervalued, underperforming car washes and kind of putting our spin on them and bringing them up to where they need to be. And it worked out. It really did. Certainly in Libertyville, we've been there for 23 years. We were in Kenosha for 17. But the market changed, the labor market changed, the car wash industry changed. So we just kind of took that as a signal to downsize a little bit and get back to what we did in Illinois. And now we just have the 2 locations in Illinois.
So we got 2 locations. One's Lake Forest, one's Libertyville. Lake Forest, we have auto repair, we have fuel and convenience, we have car wash and detail.
Yes.
And then in Libertyville, we have car wash, detail, and fuel and convenience.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep. And that's full service car wash.
You're running like eight different businesses at once.
So there's just plenty of employees around.
That's where the gray hair comes from.
So yeah, it was past couple of years have been a challenge, obviously, for a lot of businesses to try to find the labor market. But in the wintertime, we get some good guys back that primarily are from landscaping, so they come back to us in the winter. So we just wish we had a little bit of better winter. We could definitely use some cold and a little bit more salt.
Business dictated by Mother Nature.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you have a bit of a family dynamic going on. So
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my wife's family, they've had restaurants together, that kind of thing, and there's always some interesting working relationships. And it sounds like your dad started quite a long time ago, and then you guys took over, I assume.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And there was another thing that we did for a while, probably around the mid to late 90s,
98.
when we noticed that corporations were really trying to provide like on-site amenities to their employees to make it as comfortable as possible for them to be at work and to be at work more than they're at home, I guess. But anyway, so we kind of came up with our own business model back then. We started a on-site automotive service business where we had a fully rigged, stocked truck and trailer that we would bring to big companies, Trustmark and Brunswick. Where else, Bob?
Granger, Abbott.
Granger, yeah. We were actually the first outside vendor to ever solicit business on Abbott property. They had a rule, it's got its own zip code. It's so big, right. But they would never let any outside business solicit to their employees, and it took us a couple of years to gain their trust. I mean, we had to kind of build a following. We had to build a book of business, and they were watching us the whole time. And finally, they they let us in. It just so happens our first day was 9/11, unfortunately. But so that business, we ran that business for what, 3-4 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did pretty good. I mean, we were into, I don't know, 12 different locations maybe every day.
Easily, yeah.
We came up with a website where the business, let's say we were going to Trustmark Insurance on a Wednesday, okay? They would send a reminder email out to all their employees that SBI will be there. If you want to book an appointment, if you need anything extra, go on their website. And, this was early website days, but I forgot who designed it. We had that one lady design it for us. And so the employee could actually go on our website, put the year, make, and model of their car. So we made sure we had the proper oil filter, or if they needed belts, or if they needed, anything, battery, we'd do batteries out there. And we would make sure we had it for that particular day. And gosh, there were days we'd go to some of these places, would have 40 cars.
Yeah.
It was just Bob and I.
It would be getting
40 cars.
That's insane.
Would be there. Would be there till dark. I mean, well after dark, getting everybody taken care of. It taught me one thing. I always thought like people in corporate America worked 9 to 5 and then they went home. But a lot of these people, they would work until we were still. I mean, after we leave, they would still be working.
We would leave cars there with the keys hidden in the mats, or
So we did that. That was our first, business that we did, and just to kind of get out there and, see how it went. I mean, it went well. We had a private equity guy, a venture capitalist, approach us and want to give us $500,000 to go bigger than we were going. And we, at the time, we were running up against issues with village ordinances, Hewitt Associates, I think they're in Lincolnshire. They really wanted us because they're a very, amenity-oriented company for their employees. And they were almost begging us to come there, but we couldn't because Lincolnshire wouldn't allow a non-bricks and mortar establishment to do any kind of automotive service work.
Wow.
So that's the kind of thing we ran into. We ran into a couple different problems like that, we figured we'll just stay in the areas that allow it. And, so long story short, we never took his money.
we never did.
So we didn't have to pay it back.
We didn't have to pay it back, yes.
That's actually really smart. I think it was a smart business model. I mean, I know when I talk to shop owners and they're like, I'm not getting the traffic, especially if they're not in a great area, right? Because that happens, right? You're not in the right, sure. You don't have the natural traffic pattern. I'm like, you got to go knock on the doors at the big Abbott AbbVie or wherever you're at, and there's just that cluster of people there. And maybe you can't strike the relationship directly with them, but hey, get in with a handful of employees or a group or whatever it is, and it'll spread like wildfire. Next thing you know, I mean, it happens here at the firm. I mean, half the staff probably takes their car to one place because one person had a good experience, then the next person, the next person, the next person, and it helps their client.
Sure.
But otherwise, it's a way to grow a business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, plus if we found something that we couldn't do on the trailer, we would give them a discount and bring it back to our shop in Lake Forest, since we didn't really go that far away from our existing bricks and mortar. So they were happy. We would literally pick their car up the day that they wanted, let's say tires, and we would pick their car up and put the tires on it, bring it back to. They wouldn't even have to leave work.
Yeah, I think that's huge, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you're stuck at work and you can't get out to get your car maintenanced. And I always think about all those times where I'm like, scratching my head and it's like 2-3 weeks out before I can even, figure on getting a set. That would be you said you only did that for 3 years?
Well, because we would probably still be doing it today, although we're getting older, so that was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, yeah.
But we would probably still be doing it today had it not been for the opportunity that came about when we bought the Libertyville location. So that was a pretty sizable investment. We had a lot kind of on the line for that. We had to borrow most of it.
Okay.
We had to come up with a collateral, put our houses up, just to get the loan to buy this place. And so we found ourselves, Bob and I would be on the trailer every day. Our other brother, Mike, would be running the repair shop. And now this car wash that we just paid a lot of money for is, just running day to day by itself, with the employees that we inherited when we bought the business. And so, we kind of had to think about, what was more important, where the income was going to be, the potential for income was going to be greater. And so we decided to sell the business and sell the truck and the trailer and all that, and then just focus on our land operations.
Did you get your $500,000?
No.
We did not.
Matter of fact, we actually went back to that guy. I won't mention his name, but we went back to him to see if he wanted to invest in the car wash. And he, at that point, he said no. I don't think he really valued what we saw.
Yeah.
And, it goes to show you these venture capitalists, you think they know everything, but he wanted to invest in a small-time oil change operation and didn't want to invest in a multi-million-dollar car wash that years later he asked me how that was going, and I laughed, and I said, well, Tyler, you must have, you should have invested in that. I don't want to hear about it. And I did actually just mention his name. I'm sorry. Slipped.
Yeah.
Just the first name.
This is the first name, man. There's a lot of Tylers out
There's
there.
got to be a lot of Tylers.
There's a lot of Tylers on Main Street in so-and-so town.
Yeah. The great thing is for years after we got out of the on-site oil change, we still had a lot of the customers calling us at our Lake Forest location, and we would drive out and pick up their car or set up like a will wait or something like that for them. And so we still, enjoyed some of the customer base from that, which was nice.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, good customer service, just, that it's so paramount.
Yeah.
Everybody starts off going to the deal. You buy a new car, you go to the dealership because it's still under warranty.
Right.
And by the time they leave the dealership, they're like, I cannot wait to go find somebody that's nice to work with.
Yeah.
So, self-admitted service writer at a car dealership for
Yeah.
several years.
You've given me a lot of advice and Bob a lot of advice over the years about,
For sure.
the service business.
Well, I have a lot of dealership stories.
Everybody's different, and
Yeah.
it depends on the dealer, how their people are trained, and the personality of the service writer themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was funny though. Now that I'm not working in a shop, it's so damn hard to get my oil changed.
Yeah.
Go find time to go do it. Right. I used to sit there and be like, why are you way over your mileage in oil change? And, next thing I bring my truck in with like 2,000 over.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oops.
You're right. I mean, we don't have to pay for an oil change, and we still find ourselves going way over,
Just add another cart.
What do they say? The mechanic works on his own car last.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
The shoemaker's kids don't have shoes.
Yeah.
My tax return's the last one to get done.
100%. I think mine got filed
See?
April. Well, it was the 15th, I think, last
Oh,
year.
mine was October or something.
Oh,
so, yeah.
gee. I couldn't handle the extension.
That's right.
So auto shop dynamic is one thing, and now you got car wash. You got a convenience store, inventory of candy bars and snacks and beverages and all that. What's the dynamic of like switching different hats for each different business? I can hardly deal with just our accounting business.
Well,
It's interesting.
I could,
Yeah.
Good. It starts with good employees, good people.
Yeah.
That makes it a lot easier. I should mention that, for years, after we bought the Libertyville location, it was just a one-trick pony. It was a car wash, and we detailed cars. And along with the purchase came a separate lot next to the car wash. And so over the years, we knew we were underutilizing that area, and we thought, okay, we should probably do something with it. All we did was cut the grass, right?
And watch soccer games on it.
And our employees would, when we'd put them on break, they would have a soccer match over there. They're pretty good, actually. What are they wiping cars down for?
Yeah.
But so we came up with a couple different options, and honestly, we were going to do what we've done our whole lives, which is automotive. We were going to put a quick lube up there. But we decided because and this was like early 2000s maybe, we just are mid, but we decided that, with the oil change intervals being extended, with the synthetic oils and a lot of that service at the dealerships was kind of like a lost leader where, the value of an oil change was almost, second thought. They were just kind of giving them away to get people in the door. So we did the other thing only other thing we know how to do, and that's gas. And so we actually, in 2008, we had pretty good plans and approvals, actually 2007, to build a pretty good sized gas station and, expand our building. But then 08 hit, and it just didn't feel right.
Yep.
We just didn't feel like putting $1.5 million, or I think it was even more than that. It was closer to 2. But so we kind of shelved the plans and we didn't do them. Then around 2009, is that when the stimulus stuff started coming out for
cash for clunkers and
cash for clunkers?
Yeah.
That's right, something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, they had a program, the government, where they would give you a low interest, fully amortized loan for capital improvements under $1 million. And I think it was an Obama thing, pretty sure.
Yeah.
We won't get too political on this. So anyway, we decided, this might be the time, and that's a pretty good program. So it was a SBA loan. But the only thing is we had to kind of shave back some of our plans to make that work. Mm-hmm. And so we had to downsize the amount of fueling positions we were going to have, and we couldn't do the big expansion on the store that we were going to do. But at the end of the day, we did it, and it's been a blessing because around that time, people were starting to kind of get away from full service car washes. A lot of those express exteriors were starting to come into the market. And so now we actually had something that brought new and different people on to the property. Mm-hmm. We're branded Shell at that location. We're branded BP at the Lake Forest one. But so with the addition of the gas station, we were able to kind of open it up to a whole different clientele. We really started pushing exterior washes, and we were able to grow that business. That was under 5% of our business, and I just checked a couple of days ago. It's 35 to 40% of our business now.
Wow.
Because we give the discount for gas if you buy a car wash, and so that turned out to be a pretty good, improvement for that location. So. But back to your question, Dave. I know I got sidetracked, but good. You got to have good people because we couldn't do it all.
No.
I mean, at one point, I think, when we had the 3 locations, when we were really rocking and rolling up in Kenosha, and the other locations were doing their thing, I think at one point we had well over 150 employees. There was one point in Kenosha we had 45 employees.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just in one location.
That was a car shop and a 4-bay lube shop up there.
That's right. It goes back several years now.
Yeah.
Miss those days.
Yeah. Good old days.
So you guys always were really good at adapting, right? You adapted to the market when you had the opportunity for the mobile maintenance business, and then you saw an opportunity in Libertyville to add on the fuel and the convenience. And then in your Kenosha store, you had the lube center, and then all of a sudden you got an opportunity to say, we can't manage all this. Let's give some of it off to a third party, and they're going to rent it out and run that lube shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How was that decision making process?
Well, it was tough. I mean, something that you've bought and taken over and turned it around and started to get a really good car count. It was tough. It wasn't a light decision. Mm-mm. Definitely, we talked back and forth quite a bit, us 3, and just it's figured out in the long run. Probably the difference of being there from 10 hours versus 12 hours. So
balance is a good thing, right? You only get so many hours in a day.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was right after we did that we started having a real hard time in Kenosha, actually everywhere, but Kenosha for some reason the worst, finding employees. And we think that the biggest reason was that a lot of those big employers started moving over across the border. You have your Amazon
U-line
fulfillment centers, you got the U-line,
Yep.
although, Volkswagen, a lot of those bigger places started moving up there and really decimating the small business for their employees. Because it was hard to compete with the wages and the benefits and the stuff that they were paying. And so we found ourselves, busy, but always understaffed. And we decided that we would kind of go the route of what the industry was doing, which is moving away from full-service car washes. I don't know if you guys know it, but when you drive around, you don't see a lot of full-service car washes anymore, right? Where you get out, the guys vacuum your
you're doing your own stuff. Yeah,
you got to do your own.
You're wiping it down yourself now.
Yeah. So, and that's all we ever knew. And so that was our first attempt to kind of switch our model around and do exterior express type car washes. And so that was another, investment. There was another loan. We had because you just can't say, okay, well, I'm a exterior car wash now. No, you have to look like one. You have to you have to make sure the most important is you got to make sure you get a dry car, really dry car. And that's important because, you don't have anybody to dry the car off. So we retooled the interior. We put all brand new equipment in there. We put the, 17 vacuum stations outside for cars. And so that was another, I guess, example of adapting when you kind of have to. And for the most part, it worked, I think. I mean, we had a couple good years before other big players started moving into our market. And that was kind of our signal that, maybe it's time to, downsize and sell the Kenosha location. And just about that time, the company that had been leasing the lube shop out from us made us an offer, and the rest is history. So,
yeah, again, sometimes it's good to know when to get out, right?
Yep.
Not every business is going to ride off into the sunset, and they always say, the best time to be ready to sell your business was yesterday. Because you never know when somebody's going to knock on your door, give you an offer, the situation is right. I mean, you could have somebody could knock on the door of either one of your other stores, and next thing you know, you're under contract to sell it.
Right.
And
my wife reminds me that I'm too young, though.
Yeah, that is one thing, yes.
I mean, it's something that I do talk to, business owners about on a regular basis is, you never know when that time comes, right? It could be, you could plan it out and say, I'm going to retire at 60. So when I turn 55, I'm going to start making sure I button up all the details. The books are really clean. I'm starting to carve back the personal expenses out of the business to get it really ready, prepped and ready to go. I'm going to start writing all the procedures, employee handbook, all that fun stuff. But that you just never know when it's going to happen, right? Yeah. So it's, hey, today's the best day to get started on that.
Yeah.
For sure. Be prepared. Yep.
So when you guys were kind of starting over from your dad, did you guys have a lot of things that you changed from what he did, or did you kind of adopt a lot of everything that he did?
I think, that was easy because in our business, the change comes from the cars you're working on, or
that's for sure.
Right, or the regulations that the government makes you have for the pumps and the underground storage tanks and such. So I think it was a pretty good transition. We had always worked there when we were younger, and so I think our biggest contribution was as the cars were the technology was changing, we definitely kept up with that. With the schooling, with the onboard computer systems. We kind of brought the shop into that era where we were able to work on pretty much anything that came in there. We had a real good staff. Everybody was trained. We were all ASE certified, and it was just it was a natural transition. I think at that time, our dad was kind of, at that point where he was
ready to go.
He was ready, he was ready to ride off into the sunset. And so no, it was a pretty easy transition.
Okay.
So.
And did you guys grow up like you were wrenching, you were working in the shop?
Oh yeah, our whole lives.
And it was a gas station service center.
Without the car wash.
The car wash.
Yep. He added the car wash in the mid 80s.
Okay.
And we grew up working on our own cars all the time and hot rodding up our own cars all the time. I don't get, a lot of kids these days, they don't do that.
No,
they don't. It's not a passion. It's not a.
I grew up with it. I had, cousins and friends. They would always, somebody always had some sort of a Camaro, a 69 Camaro or something like that.
Sure.
So they what everybody had.
Sure.
One of my cousin had a Chevy Nova. That was actually kind of fun too. But I mean, I could help them with very simple stuff. But those guys were replacing engines.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody doing that. Like, I don't see kids doing that at all today.
No. But there's a big difference on a 69 Camaro versus
Audi.
Even a 2009 Chevy.
Sure.
It's unbelievable.
That's
the
true.
engineering that goes into these new cars is it's pretty interesting. What you have to do sometimes to replace a part.
And the job is different, right?
Yeah.
It's not just changing parts anymore. I mean, you got to be a master diagnostic.
For sure.
And you got to be a computer programmer.
Yep.
I mean, if you're looking, I've seen, the projections of shops of the future and really modern shops. I mean, they look more like an Apple store than they look like a repair facility.
Sure.
Pristine, a lot of technology, a lot of computers. I mean, you still got, your Big Mac Go box. You got to have everything because at the end of the day, everything's still put together with nuts and bolts.
Yeah. You're still going to have suspensions and brakes
but all that stuff's regulated by a computer now.
Yeah.
Right.
So computer touches almost everything on a vehicle. So it's a whole different. Even your technician, right? The personality of a technician is evolving.
Mm-hmm. True.
Not a parts changer anymore. Not a the grease monkey reputation is long gone, and it's truly the age of the technician.
And it's a pretty secure field when you think about it. I mean, you're always going to have vehicles of some sort.
Yep.
No matter what they look like in 20 years, and you're still going to need people to fix them. And you're not really seeing a lot of new. I mean, you might know more about this than we do. I just know over the years when we've tried to find, help, it's been tough because if guys are at a location, if they're at a dealership, or if they're happy where they're at, they're not going to take that chance to move if they don't. The unknown might be worse than what they know, or better, but they won't give it a chance, and they're just going to stay where they're at.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely. The demand is so much greater than the supply right now for technicians in the automotive field. I mean, and they're probably one of the hardest hit industries from an employee shortage, just because there is so many opportunities, especially in those early years when you're in an apprentice stage or a lube tech stage, and you're making less than what the warehouse workers are making at Amazon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And you got to make a living. You got to pay your rent. Right. So oftentimes people are going to prioritize making a paycheck over building a career.
Right.
They don't think about, hey, if I stay in this field for 10, 20 years, I'm going to be making $200,000. I mean, a top flight tech's going to make 200 plus
easily.
And if you want to own a shop one day, I mean, there's plenty of shop owners. They got 5-10 shops and they're making, 7-figure incomes.
Sure.
And people don't think about that, but I'll tell you what the biggest leading indicator in how successful that industry is. Private equity is all over rolling up auto repair shops. There are several private equity groups that are buying up shops left and right.
Could we get their number? No, just kidding.
I do have a contact.
We already know it's Tyler.
Right. Now we blew that chance.
I don't need your wife to yell at me. No early retirement for you.
No, I'm working. I'm not going anywhere.
No, you're not.
So it's been interesting. We're still at that point right now where we're trying to figure out if it's the best move for us to get out of the full service model here in Illinois and switch over to the exterior express, because I'll be honest, I mean, labor labor wages have become a significant, increased significantly. And so, as that goes on, we're kind of at that point where, as the wages increase, yes, you have to increase your cost of your wash, what you're charging the customer. But then there's that one point where they're not going to want to pay $35 just to get their car. They'll rather buy the $6 or $8 or $10 car wash, and not give you that. But you still need, if you're considered a full service car wash, and this is something we struggle with daily, if you're considered a full service car wash, you have to have labor every day.
Yeah.
Even for instance, tomorrow there's probably a 90% chance of rain, and there's a 10% chance it won't. So we still have to have people in there, and you just can't have them come in and wait. You have to pay them, and so there's a very good chance that tomorrow will be what we call a rain day in our business, where what do? You keep guys around in hopes that it maybe gets sunny later in the afternoon, and you might start washing cars? We used to do that years ago. We would require the guys to come in, would pay you, but we're going to open up, so don't leave. But there's a good chance that tomorrow we might have to make that decision where, okay, well, we're paying everybody so much now, we might just have them wait or, do maintenance or, get, something done that we've been waiting for a rain day to do. But then after that, we might send them home. And then if it gets nice, we just don't open.
Yeah.
Or we just open for exterior car washes. So, that's always been the balancing act when you got labor and full serve versus these guys that just have the exterior washes. They can not open at all, or open. And what's the cost?
Yeah. The overheads, the utilities, or whatever.
Right.
Totally. So that it's interesting. I know you guys are seeing that every day. All these automatic car washes, they're just opening up all over the place.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yes.
What is, I have some thoughts on it, but I'd be curious to know what your take on it.
Well, it's kind of like how talked earlier, how all of the big box stores are starting to have gasoline.
Yeah.
Customer will come through the car wash, see how busy it is on a day, and says, you know what, I think I've always wanted to open a car wash up and find a couple other buds and go get a loan and build a car wash, and then realize that, man, I hate the car wash, but I want to sell it, right? But then that car wash is there.
Yep.
And then usually, Big Shot comes in and buys it and turns it around and runs it.
Okay.
And so that a lot of that's been happening.
Yep.
Yeah, they think it's the next greatest thing, and now it's been saturated down so much. I mean, there was a point in time over in Gurnee, there was no car washes, and so we actually considered putting a car wash in at Gurnee. Mm-hmm. But that was at the point when the Grand Avenue property just got overwhelmingly expensive.
Yeah,
and we just couldn't do it. And but now if you look in Gurnee, there's
ton of car wash.
There's a lot of express exteriors in Gurnee now, for sure. Not one full service.
I don't think cities and villages open their, let them in with open arms, because it's, there's really not a good tax base for them with the service business. They don't collect taxes on it. But yeah, there is definitely something to, certain areas seem to be almost saturated, and a lot of it has to do with, I think, whoever's the equipment company in that area. There's a couple guys in particular that they pop up everywhere, and it's a equipment company going, getting an investor and just selling them everything under the sun, and telling them it's going to be this way, it's going to be that way, and just telling them what they want to hear. So they invest and they build the location, and whether or not that holds to fruition, after, they open up. I mean, because you think of a lot of these places are $4 and $5 million locations.
Yeah.
And
riding through Kenosha, ever since I was a little kid, always the car washes were small.
Yeah.
And now you see there's some very large car washes in Kenosha in itself, and I'm just like, wow, that thing's huge. Don't get me wrong. It snows and we get salt on the cars and stuff like that. But those places are really big.
Yeah.
for that base of a community.
Yeah.
You know,
We've always laughed, and you can build the most beautiful car wash in the world, and I'd like to see those in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, because there's one thing about a car wash: it needs constant maintenance.
Yeah.
You're talking about equipment and water all day long, every day, and maintenance and preventative maintenance, repairs, just everything that goes into the car wash. I would have to say, Bob, that I don't think there's anything, and I knock on wood when I say that, but I don't think there's anything that we haven't seen in our past 30 plus years.
I would agree.
In the car wash business, on busy days, your conveyor chain breaks, or a hydraulic hose pops, or the computer, starts sending goofy signals out because your pulse switch, your power supply. Yeah. So, I mean, and when you think about it, like Bob and Mike and I, we're on site every single day, usually, sometimes Sundays, but I would say hands down, Monday through Saturday, there's an owner there almost every hour of the day. And, that doesn't hold true for a lot of these new, you say, the ones that you see going up and down 50, what's going to happen when that breaks? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen is they're going to have to call a repair company, equipment company in there to fix it, and that gets expensive.
And it's going to take more time than somebody who's there.
Sure,
right? So,
sure. Like it's funny when we order our cloth for our locations. They always ask us if they want to send the company out to put it on. I'm like, why would you send a company out? We're going to do it ourselves. But I don't think there's a lot of guys out there anymore that are willing to put that kind of sweat equity into it to not to make sure you're not overpaying to get something fixed.
Yeah.
I always look at car washes as a real estate grab. You buy a piece of real estate in an emerging market, you put up a car wash, hopefully it can service the debt for the real estate and the build out. And it doesn't need to make you money, it just needs to service the debt. And at the end of your debt service, now you got this piece of real estate that's probably appreciated in value significantly because you chose the right area at the right time.
Yep.
And on top of that, car washes have one of the best tax attributes. You can accelerate a lot of the equipment in car wash and the build out of the car wash, the construction of the whole facility. Over the last few years, they've definitely sweetened that up.
Sure.
So my guess is the equipment companies are also selling that heavily. Hey, you need a big write-off in your portfolio of businesses. Car wash, build a car wash.
Maybe
runs itself, right? All automatic runs itself.
Never have to go there, right?
Yeah.
Never breaks.
Never breaks. Yeah.
If there's a problem, call Tyler.
He'll buy you out.
I have to look his number up again, Bob.
I just hope
missing the old days.
I just hope he's listening.
Poor Tyler doesn't know what's coming in. He's going to get blasted all over the
We're
interwebs.
going to start getting emails, right?
He's going to go viral.
Where's Tyler?
He's going to be the new Where's Waldo?
I think he's still a customer of ours. We better be careful.
Oh, shoot.
He's a snowbird. He's a snowbird.
Okay.
So.
I don't give too much away.
Can we play this podcast episode in your waiting lounge? So what the future looks like? What are you guys thinking about? We got, obviously the economy's always interesting. The future of the automotive business, repair business alone is super dynamic. We're going to have EVs in the next 10, 15 years are going to be more popular than fossil fuel vehicles.
Yeah.
Car washes, is it going to be robots? I mean, who knows what that's going to look like.
It does kind of feel like we are in a industry that the government doesn't typically think too fondly of anymore, right?
Yeah.
And we won't get into our personal feelings on that because we don't have that much time. But we talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
What's it going to look like in 10? But then again, when you think about it, and it's even happening on our way here, when I was going down 83, another big jobber puts a gas station up, big, and they're not just putting, little, 4-position, islands up. I mean, you're talking huge investments. So I would imagine they're a lot smarter than we are, and they must know something we don't if they're continuing to build these things.
Yeah, right.
When I take my daughter to school, she goes to Illinois State. There is a gas station. It's pretty neat. It's called Wally's, I think, and they have over 150 pumps.
Wow, that's insane.
And this is interesting. When you go to the back of the property where the EVs get to sit there for 45 minutes while they try to charge your car back up, if you go to the back of the place, there's only 4 of those.
Wow.
So he's got 150 pumps out front and 4 for those people. So
that's interesting.
Well, why would they still be building these if our jobber is expanding? I mean, they're building their own brand, and so I guess the future is people are still going to need vehicles, and I don't know if the electric, when you think about their lifespan, I don't know if if you really save as much money. I just had a guy call me and ask if we could get him a price on the main battery, not the little onboard battery, but the main battery for his Tesla. It was 12 years old. And I looked into it, and you can't get it because Tesla wants you to go back to, their location. So you have to go back there, or unless you're an authorized Tesla facility. But it was $20,000. And I said, Tom, another name, sorry guys. I said, Tom, did you really save that much in gas to justify, because you still have to do tires, you still have to do brakes, and the answer is he didn't really think so. And, at the end of the day, if you're not taking that money that you're saving from not filling up and saving it somewhere, you're just spending it in your daily lifestyle. Yeah. In 10, 12 years, you got to come up with $15,000 to $20,000 to put a battery in your car.
Wow.
So I don't know.
And then still have at that point, you still have an older car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that would ever, I think the future, as long as we're going to be doing it for, it's going to be fine. But I think the one thing we would definitely consider doing in both of our locations is somehow trying to figure out how to reduce our labor costs, because that has become, by and large, the biggest expense in our business. The biggest asset, but the biggest expense. And so, that's an interesting dynamic balance.
Yeah. Or service-based economy, right? I think most businesses would agree is labor is their number one expense and their number one asset.
Yeah, so that's, that would be probably the only other change I think coming up for us.
Yeah. Sure.
So the EV market is interesting, or the EV theory is pretty interesting, because when you think about it, what's the average age of a car on the road? 10, 15 years?
For sure, yeah.
Right, and 10, 15 years ago, they weren't really selling EV vehicles.
No.
And we're still maybe, 5% of the market is EV? Right, so before they're at 51, they got to hit 51%, and then it takes 15 years before they become the majority of cars on the road.
Right.
I mean, we're talking probably 15, 20 years before, it becomes the tide will change.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe that's a hydrogen car, solar powered, whatever it may be. So, to a certain extent, I look at it as, it's there, right? It's a reality of it. And there's a good economic opportunity to address that customer base. But it's almost like a herring out there. Is it really in your future of thinking about it? Probably not.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I got a buddy that works for a pretty large electrical
You're not going to say his name.
Nope.
Tyler, Tom, is Ron at the gym?
Interrogated by the FBI.
No, but
this one's going straight to NSA.
He travels all over the country, setting up a lot of these car manufacturers. They're building these EV plants all over the country. He said it's unbelievable. And it's not just one manufacturer, it's all of them. I think he's on a trip right now somewhere for a Honda EV facility that they're going to be, wiring up and bringing the electric into, and he says it's unbelievable. Yeah. So they must be thinking that that's going to be the future, and they're going to put their money into that, and we'll see if that ever really happens.
Yeah. Well, it's still a long time away, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I think we learned today, staying flexible. It seems to be adapting, staying flexible, and
for sure. You got to.
Yep.
Consider the outside forces and adjust the business as you need to. And, that's how you stay around for 30 years. You expand to multiple locations, and hey, you even exit when the time is right and the stars align.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
No, it's been a good life. It's been a good business.
Yeah.
It's kept us very busy, but you gotta be busy.
Gotta be busy.
A lot of hours.
Gotta be busy.
Yeah. Well, every business owner knows, right?
Yeah.
There's no shortage of hours you can work.
I'd probably get in trouble if I wasn't working.
We're probably going to get in trouble in about 20 minutes.
That's true.
Because we're not going back to work.
Oh, that's what work is called, right?
Today it is, yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. This is super cool. Great conversation. I think anybody listens today, right? Yeah. You think that your business, you have your model in your head and you're going to just forge forward with it, but really, right, staying adapting to your changes, that's the key. So please heed advice from these two brilliant gentlemen we had on today.
And stop by for a detail.
Stop by for a detail, Libertyville.
And Tyler, if you're out there, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Give me your number.
Call me.
Might have some money for you.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate
thanks for having us. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
A lot of fun.
Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.
All right.
You have been listening to the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. You can hear more real stories from real business owners about what it takes to make it in business by subscribing to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you like what you hear, leave a review and a 5-star rating. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs and Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com.